Good morning, everyone. It's Anthony Tharp, 12:52 p.m., February 27th, in the afternoon. Got a late start this morning, but I'm up and I'm running. I'm by the water as usual. It's where I find it most relaxing. I'm sometimes sorry that a large percentage of good people that's in Jamaica can't get to leave that island just to see what the rest of the world looks like. And that's a big negative experience for most people, because again, after a certain point in time in your lives, there's very little else to do but to travel, see the world, meet other people, see other cultures, and understand how beautiful this planet is, and that it's a shame that we have to go through all of these negative issues. I've been encouraging my friends who are on the islands to go on a couple cruises. Just cruise around the Caribbean. You'd be surprised at what that does for you in terms of the change of scenery. And even though some people might say, oh well, all the islands are the same, actually the experience of just going to someplace else, seeing other people, sharing their culture, hearing the different in accents, it's a good thing, and you appreciate people and you appreciate life. So I always try to get by the water. I don't know if it's something that has to do with our ancestry, the fact that we're dragged out of Africa, or we cross the ocean in our own ships. But the ocean has been extremely important in our lives as a people, and we're drawn to it. A lot of our ancestors and family and islanders who came across the waters by vicious uncivil means in chains, after the so-called abolition of slavery, a lot of us took to the hills and I guess moved away from the coastline. As a result, I'd say most Jamaicans can't swim. Probably the same thing, most islands can't swim. And there's a fear, an innate fear that's buried in our DNA from that bad experience. Because I truly believe that your ancestors' experience gets embedded in your DNA. It doesn't leave. It's encoded there, and you carry it and pass it on. Just like how birds are born, they know how to fly, we know how to talk, because it's encoded in our DNA. And it's the same thing, experience. That's why we have dreams of experiences we didn't actually have, but we're having dreams that you can't explain. Meeting people, being in different places, you name it. It's part of our DNA. We're recording history and we're recording life as it unfolds, pass it on to our children, and hopefully they can use that knowledge and experience to do better than we did. And in fact, sometimes you wonder why you react in certain situations a certain way, and people call it deja vu. Maybe it's because somebody else experienced it and just passed it on, or it's you coming back from reincarnated. There's all kind of wonderful things that we can stretch our minds to experience and just have objective educated discussions around. And I think that's where we should aim to be as a people. Get to a point in life where we're not just talking about the basic savagery that goes on in our lives and has been with us for generations. And it's sad that we have to come here and even think of those things rather than just sharing really positive things that's going on in the world. But the world is a horrible place because man has decided they want to oppress other people, take advantage of them, and I don't know why. I can't explain it. I've never seen the logic of war. I've never seen the logic of a dictator or an oligarch, or someone who just wants to oppress people for oppression's sake. Okay, makes them feel better. I don't know how that makes you feel better when people, you abuse people and hate people and treat them with contempt and disgust, and then you expect them to respect you. They might fear you, but certainly they don't respect you. Why am I talking all of this mess this morning? Because I was listening to the song Marvin Gaye. I think, what's going on? And you should all take a listen to that and apply it to our experience, the things I've been talking to you about and sharing with you about what's going on. It's hard to explain. Why do people do the things they do? Why would Jamaican judges and Jamaican citizens take action that destroy their own country? So Marvin Gaye was asked what's going on. Well, listen, it's a powerful song, and it reflects on what's going on with us. And then it hit me as well. That song was pretty intense this morning in terms of hearing it, because I remember another matter that's now in the court. It seemed like I have, and my family has a bullseye on our back for these corrupt people. And this one really tore me up, because I don't know if you have seen grown men cry, but when grown men cry, it's not because we're scared. It's not because we're afraid. When you have a warrior spirit, you don't cry because you're afraid or you're scared. You cry because you're limited by your own resolve to try to deal with things civilly, and people are taking advantage of you. And there are alternative methods to deal with it, but you've decided you want to go the straight, narrow, and in a civilized way. Sadly enough, those people think when you're reserved and you don't take action, serious action, to deal with matters that you have a right to protect your interests and protect your life, they think you're weak, you're coward, and so they continue to take action against you, which is totally against being a civil, living in civil society. So there are those of us who have, pretty much tried to live the right way and not take action that not only could escalate things, but terminate. I figure we don't have the means, the power, or the know-how to. But I forget that we come from a people who have always been warriors defending our rights. And how far can these people go before they realize that they're, it's not because we're scared, it's not because we're afraid, it's not because we are weak why we've chosen to take this route, but it's because we want to build a civil society. We want to work towards that utopia. We probably won't get to it in my lifetime, but it's a matter of educating people. And so you try to do the right thing. You try to impart to your children, your cousins, your friends, your relatives, to say, listen, let's pursue it at this level. And even though at some point you question your actions as to, you have a limited time on the planet, a limited time in life, can you take forever to take decisive action in protecting your life and your interest? I don't know. Some of our relatives did, and because of that we're here. Some of our relatives didn't wait, they took action, and that's why we're here. And we shouldn't be having this conversation at this time in our lives, at this time in terms of history. But again, these people keep coming. They keep coming at us. And regardless of how you try your best to avoid conflict, they're in your face. They're in your face. I don't know if they're trying to test us, test me, test life. So this morning I'm still thinking about what we're going through, and I was reminded of a situation again in the courts. As I said, I has to deal with my family and the brazen nature of how judges and lawyers are just trying their best to project to the world that they are untouchables, and just look in your face, up in your face, stealing from you in plain sight, trying to use the courts and think they're going to get away with it. What am I talking about? I'm just going to give you a brief scenario. I'm not going to show you any documentation, but I have the documentation because, again, these are decisive actions on those people's parts to hurt people and damage people. And so grown men who are warriors don't cry because we're scared. We cry because we want to take action, but you prevent yourself from taking those actions. And even though your spirit and your soul is telling you you have the right to, you still control yourself. You control the action, you control the narrative, and so you help to pass on to the rest of society that there are always alternatives, and it's those alternatives that we're working to achieve. So for all of you crooks and criminals out there who are stealing people's property and acting as if people are scared of you, or people are scared of dying or taking decisive action, that's not the case. Don't accept within yourself that because people sit there and allow you to think you have the control or you have control of their lives, you do. We have as much control over our lives and what we do as anybody else thinks they have. So, quickly, a family member passed. This was 2017. She passed from cancer. A really nice person. One of my favorite persons. And in fact, she was one of my partners, investors. And she was the one I mentioned in a previous video that she said to me, Anthony, are we going to see anything out of these activities or from our investments? So it was one of my favorite people. So she passed. A close family member became an executor, was named as the executor on the estate, and her son. Approximately a year and a half after her son, the other executor, passed. After the funeral, he was having aches, tummy aches, couldn't explain it. They told him to check the hospital. When he went there, there was a big mass in the area of his appendix and small intestines, and it was cancer. And it had metastasized all over. It was just rapid. I mean, this guy used to eat healthy, wheatgrass every day, fish, healthy foods, organic stuff. Young. I think he just turned 50. So that's young. And he passed really fast. So he had separated from his wife for more than 20 years. I used to tell this guy, you need to divorce this person. You need to take action. You need to divorce them. They warned him. They begged him before, even when he was on his deathbed, and he brought in the other executor for his mother's estate, and they were sitting there, and he made that executor his executor as well, and he was telling her what to do, and they were having discussions, and the executor said to him, well, what you do now, you're still here, so put your resources, your money into accounts, and determine where you want it, what to do, what would be used to take care of the funeral, that kind of thing. So he did that. Unfortunately, the executor that he named was unable to be in Jamaica at a certain point, so there was an issue with an account. She had to go on an account. She couldn't get to Jamaica on that account, so they said, all right, since he was still married to this person, they weren't divorced, they had a quote-unquote questionable relationship, but he figured, and she figured, in fact the executor recommended it, which I told them they shouldn't have done. When they did it, I said that's crazy, but they went ahead, he did it. It was kind of a rush situation he was going, and so they had this divorce, this separated person, put on accounts in the bank and hold some keys to the safety deposit box in trust for the executor. And one account was left with money for him to be buried. And what he put in his will, or his last instructions, was that he predominantly lived in New York, so he wanted to make sure he was buried in Jamaica with his, beside his mom and his father. But he wanted to also have a memorial service in New York for his friends and stuff who couldn't come to the funeral because it was prohibitive. It was expensive. I mean, to get the body even out of New York and then to go and get a funeral home to deal with it. It was pretty expensive, I think. But that said, he left money in those accounts to take care of the funeral. It was more than enough. He left money in there for his memorial service in New York for his friends and family there. And so after the funeral, he was buried, and the time came up for the memorial service. This young lady who had cheated on the guy during his life, and that's the reason they were separated for more than how many decades. They had a son. He took care of his son. He took care of everything. She showed up at the funeral and she sat in the queue with the family, and everybody was like, all right, so for peace sake, they let it slide. Then when the bills were supposed to be paid, she came. She pretended that she was the one paying the bills. An account was set up that the executor had, recommended, set up and designate the money. And when the memorial service came up and the funds were supposed to be paid from that account, that young lady went and said she had spent enough money and she's not going to spend any more, and therefore she don't see the need for a memorial service. Now remember, she has nothing to do with anything. She was just left the money in trust to take care of this. So that was the nature of that person. She was a cheater. She used to try to trick him out of money. When his son had to go to school, he used to be in school in Jamaica, she had her little things to go on. She used to try to trick him to get money to go on those little ventures, even though she was going on those ventures with other persons. So she had a good job, good place, government job, but she wasn't the honest person that they thought she was. So she literally stole that money that was supposed to be spent. Then what she did, money that was left in trust that didn't have anything to do with her or the estate but belonged to his mom, including a safety deposit box with jewelry and all of that was left for her daughter, his sister. So they made arrangement to meet her at the bank because she had the keys. She said she was going to meet them. The day they went down to the bank, she didn't show up. Wasn't showing up. Then she came up with some excuse, and so the person had to go to the bank. And when I went to the bank, there she was. And when she saw them coming in the bank, she literally ducked and hid in the bank. So they knew what she was up to. I knew what she was up to. So apparently she went in the safety deposit box. Don't know what she took out. because they still haven't gotten the box from 2018 until now. But she went into the box, obviously, because the gentleman had left a truck for a person that he knew from he was growing up, worked with his mom, was on the farm, helping to take care of the farm for his mother, and they had a good relation. So he left a truck, a pickup for the guy. He actually signed over the title and left the title in the safety deposit box. So the executor was supposed to go there, get all of that, and hand it over to him. The truck was turned over to the gentleman after the reading of the will. So this young lady went after that. Remember, there's a mother's estate and this guy's estate now. So the mother's estate was probated. They waited until it was probated. Some of it had to go to him. So the executor was to pass whatever went to him to his son. And COVID popped up, slowed down things, gave it to an attorney. The attorney sat on it. And anyway, the attorney eventually filed it in probate court and waiting on the results of that. This lady now, who was doing all of this nefarious activity, went and got attorneys, convinced her son to file action against the executor, that the executor wasn't doing or performing. Now, they had two executors now. He had named a friend and plus the executor that went to New York. So there were actually two executors. They went and filed, the mother went and had the son file a claim in the probate court stating that the executors weren't doing their jobs and that he wanted them removed. Now, the executors weren't notified of all of this, but they kept harassing, and eventually the other executor that was working in Jamaica went to her job, and on the desk where she used to work, there was a desk, an envelope, and in fact on top of the envelope was something came from the court that the matter was in court, not only in court, but it had went to court, and the judge, without them being served anything or appear in court, went and removed the executors that this gentleman wanted on his estate, removed them, and left in the order that the young man, the son, could apply for administration of the will. Totally disregarding what the will said, totally disregarding that the will was being probated, and in the courts removed the executors. So when we found out, they contacted me. I went and I filed papers in the courts reminding the court, the probate court, that the will was actually in the court being processed. So the thing they filed in court about the executors not doing their thing, they're actually waiting on the court. Didn't hear anything from the court. What happened next was that this attorney that they hired went and now filed another claim, just like what they did in the Capital One thing. This was another attorney now. So I'm just saying it because you'll see the similarities. This is what they do. They go in there and they commit acts of crime and to steal people's property. So anyway, so let's speeding up things. This attorney went again now, left the claim that they filed to remove the executors, abandoned that. Remember, they weren't served, so they can't file anything in court. I filed a petition and affidavits to the probate court, and thinking now the probate court would call the matter to attention because of the fraud. Because when they went and filed all of this thing, it was fraudulent. As I said, based on the law, if you're going and misinform the court, file fraudulent activity to influence anybody to do another action, then that's fraud. And again, we mentioned the Law Reform Fraudulent Transaction Act of 2013. So we filed that with the court, thinking the court would take action to remedy the situation. The court did nothing. And instead of doing nothing, they went and allowed them to file another claim, separate and apart. And in that application, they now were trying to, they appointed the guy administrator. And of course, his mother is the one driving it because he's living in the US. I appointed him administrator. So when it came up, I happened to file papers in the court, and the court paid attention. This time there was a hearing. I mentioned to the court that first of all, he's being made an application on a fraudulent order from the court, and order was fraudulent because the application and what they filed on to remove the executor was fraudulent. So this judge said, all right, were we served? So because the gist of what I filed was that there was no service again on the executors, and there was now this application now for this person to take administration of an estate that his father didn't want him to take responsibility for. He had people he wanted to be appointed as executor, and did appoint them. I remember he was alive, in bed, sick and dying when he made his will. So if he wanted anybody else there, he would have put them there. So all of that was put in affidavits to the court with evidence that the will was in the court being processed. There were attorneys on it, and there was literally nothing the executors could have done because COVID had delayed everything, and it was frankly not their fault, any delays that they perceived. And there were no major delays because the gentleman passed in 2018, late 2018, and the will was being processed during 2019 when the height of COVID. And so when I filed in court and went and represented the parties, I said to the judge, first of all, the court doesn't have jurisdiction to even have made any orders in the first instance, or even make orders on this application or this claim they're filing. So the judge said, well, the persons weren't served, you need to go serve them. And they went and they filed, they served, sent out stuff through the mail, they claim, to people living in the US, and didn't serve anybody. Of course, before you can serve out of the jurisdiction, you have to apply for a special order. They didn't do that. So the judge eventually gave them, told them to go serve the claim so that it could come into court and they would have jurisdiction. So they tried to do that, they claim, and they went and filed papers on the executors in their state, sending it to the US post office and addresses and all of that. But that was illegal because the rules of the Jamaica court said even if you're filing somebody out of jurisdiction, you need an order from the court, which they did eventually get on a second attempt, and you must serve it in accordance to the laws of the United States. When they came back to court for a hearing for the court now to decide whether they had jurisdiction or not, I again pointed out to the court that they weren't served in accordance to the laws and the rules of the court. The court asked me what was the problem. I pointed it out, and they not only had sent it to the wrong place, but they still didn't file it in accordance to US law. So the judge wrote an order stating that you have to serve this thing and serve it in accordance to the laws of the country in which these persons live, and you have to conform to the rules of the court. And she emphasized must be served in according to the laws of the country in which they live. What they did now, they went and served it in accordance to the state. Still didn't serve it on the people directly. Then came back to court on a second hearing and claimed that they sent it via US Post to the US Post box, and the same thing again. So I pointed out to the judge again, these people did not follow the rules of the court, and because they put in their application, they served it in accordance to the laws of Florida. And I took up the rules of the court, and pointed out and put it in front of the court, read it to the judge, and said, first of all, they are wrong on a point of law from onset. So anything else they did after that was unenforceable and couldn't be considered legal service. Because one for one, you had to file or serve the persons in accordance to the laws of the country in which they live. What they did in their application and affidavit, they said they served it in accordance to the state, Florida. And before you can serve anybody in the United States, in a state, you have to first satisfy federal law. I pointed that out to the judge, the judge was like, this was the same judge now who, Mason, yeah, the same judge that had given orders that she didn't see me file anything, and the same thing I explained, the same dirty action, irresponsible action of this judge. Hear what the judge said to me now. Well, she was satisfied that they served the persons. She was satisfied that they did everything to serve the person. I said, this is not about satisfying you. They have to satisfy the rules and the laws of the United States and the rules of the court of Jamaica, which in effect is saying you have to satisfy the rules of the court. So she gave the order anyway that she was ruling that the service of process was effective. You see, this is the thing I'm talking about. So in any case, what she did now, she also granted them an injunction against the executors, the executor who happened to be the daughter of the deceased mother. And she had inherited from her mother a farm and farm animals, over 130 something heads of cattle, breeding cattle with calves and all of that. You know what the judge did? Gave this lawyer and this application from this young man who had no ownership interest in the woman's cattle, in the daughter's cattle, gave an injunction that she was not only appointing this guy administrator for the estate, but she was granting him an injunction against this lady's cattle. So I said to the judge, how can you grant an injunction against a person's cattle based on somebody just coming into court and saying they have an interest in the cattle? You know what the attorney said? Well, even if she had gotten the cattle from her mother, that was some 2 years ago, and those cattle she would have gotten from her mother would have been dead or died out by now. No, that's exactly what she said. It's in the papers. I said, I'm not going to show you the documents, not yet anyway. So they stole the woman's 130 odd head of cattle. The caretaker she had there was already stealing from her. And I went and said to the judge, this is not assets that are irremovable. The lady needs to have somebody to take care of the cattle, and she had asked me to take care of the cattle. Here I have the power of attorney. You know what the judge gave in the injunction? That I was restricted from going onto the property to take care of the cattle. Now, where the cattle were was on this lady's, the daughter's property. None was on the property that this young man was supposed to get, but there was a right of way across the property. And not only that, the lady who now had the cattle from her mother also had a legal right and interest in the property and the house. The judge put an injunction that not only couldn't I go, but she couldn't go on the property as well to deal with the property, the animals. So I said, my lady, how do we keep a log or manage our animals if we can't get on the property? So I said, and you had this injunction given to these persons, and you haven't even asked them how they're going to pay us for the animals that are missing, because we had already did an audit and missed 28 head of the cattle. She said, oh, didn't you guys give an undertaking for damages for... They said, no, well, the judge before had told them they had to give an undertaking, which they did. So I said to Justice Mason, what's happening to our animals, or this lady's animals? And she just left it like that. So she was satisfied. So now, this was in last year. So this lady does not know what's happening to her animals on her property. And are they selling the people's stuff? Because I can't go there even though I have power of attorney. Even though neighbors who knew her mother had given affidavit that the cattle belonged to her mother, and her mother passed it on to her. And despite all of that, the judge gave an order blocking this lady from her own animals. And you know why the attorney did that? Because the attorney now is there, I presume, selling off these animals. So 130 or 40 head of cattle, and this attorney filed all of that. Justice Mason ignored the law, ignored the fact that this was not this guy's property, this son's property. It was, and she had a grant of probate proving that the cattle belonged to the other lady, to the mother's, the deceased sister or the other executor. She had a grant of probate from her mother's estate saying the cattle was hers. The judge ignored all of that because I filed everything and turned over this woman's cattle and her land and her property that her brother had also put her in as part of the beneficiary to the estate. Turn it over to a lawyer, and this lady who wasn't even respectful to this deceased person, to have him have a memorial service in New York for his friends and family. She stole the money. She stole the money and she ripped off other accounts during the process. And with all of that, this is what we have to deal with in Jamaica. So it's not just about what's going on with me, and that's why I keep posing the question and submitting to you guys and to all the subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. Why are we allowing people to behave like this in the court? Now, Justice Mason is the same justice as I mentioned on the list of the judges that need to be removed from the court, because she's doing all of this. So if she's doing it across the board, and again, I don't know, it could be that she took revenge on the lady because I was representing her. It could be, but again, she broke the law. She broke the rules of the court. She broke international law, and she turned over people's property to other people who are there stealing it. And so what's going to happen? That's a big question, because remember, she wasn't served, so the court doesn't have jurisdiction to even have given those things. And she hasn't been served with anything from these attorneys and this young lady or this woman who cheated on the deceased. And she doesn't know what's happening. They can't serve her or anything, and she technically can't do anything but file papers in the court and hope that they set the matter and said have a hearing on it. I did file papers, but we're not hearing anything about it either. So again, you see what they did. They created this situation where owners of property are defrauded of their property. So that's why I started out this way. That you try to do the right thing, you live right, you try to do honest things, and here it is, a judge would sit up on a podium and help to steal people's property. And they figure you can't do anything, or you're restricted. But the fact is, we are the ones that's restricting ourselves from taking action that are justified. Because you're thieving from people, you're stealing people's stuff, and in the face as if you have the damn right to do it. No law gives you the right to steal from people under the guise that you're a judge. Because regardless of whether these attorneys are paying you a dime or not, the fact that you stole people's property and gave it to them means you're part and parcel of the whole criminal enterprise that's operating in the courts in Jamaica and across the board. Because I went to the cops as well in the parish of where it is. I spoke to the DSP, I filed papers, I presented evidence that the cows belong to this lady, a big old herd of cattle. It's on her farm, and guess what? The police don't do anything. And you know what happened with that? I went on the property before they get this injunction, and I wanted to count the animals. And the caretaker now, who jumped ship and is working for these crooks, because he's stealing cattle too, he blocked me from coming onto the property. And when I called him and said I was coming down to check off the animals, see how many calves were there, how many needed to be dealt with, how we go and brand them. He told me that he got a letter from this attorney and that I'm not supposed to come onto the farm. And I said, regardless of what somebody said, I don't care about no attorney. The same attorney wrote to the cops in the parish and this particular station. And when I went to them, the officer there, the DSP, read the letter and said, well, they say I'm not supposed to be on the property, I'm not supposed to be this, but they have no injunction. It was just a letter. And I said, first of all, I showed them all the evidence of who owned what. And the officer said, go do an audit of your animals. Go call your herd, do whatever you do. So but before I got through doing that, they rushed to some judge, got an injunction without any hearing on the matter involving the people who own the animals, and then sent it back to the cops because they had threatened the cops now that, if they allowed us on to go on to the property, they were going to sue the attorney general. This cop is shaking in his boots, and I'm saying, regardless of what they're saying, they have no evidence that these animals are there. Here's the evidence that this woman owns the animals. Here are affidavits from people who say the farm belongs to the lady and therefore it was passed to her from her mother. And the police don't do anything. And I started to talk about the police because guess what happened? So before they got this injunction and he said, go check off your animals, and I was on the farm. Before I got down there, I called the gentleman, said I'm coming, and he said to me, you can't come down here because he got a letter from he had said the court, which was a lie, it was from the attorneys. And so I said, I'm coming, I need to check off the animals. Well, if you come, you're going to see what's going to happen. So you see, your own property, somebody get authorization to go deal with it, and this lady now can't get to her animals. The caretaker, the boy what them hire for handle the matter, the thief from her, and we know him thieving from her because at one point we went there and they were going to sell some animals because he called her, she have to get rid of some of the animals, they're too much. When they went to sell the animals, I went on the farm and there was a calf, a particular calf, and I said, what's the calf doing out here? And he was like, it's that disgusting calf and keep that and blah blah blah. And so I said, why isn't he with the herd? And why isn't he tagged? Alright, so the next day we had a sale of the animals. When we showed up, him keep saying, he has to go sell this animal because I said, don't sell him. Let him stay there because that was an interesting animal, and I'll give you a little thing about the story. That animal, that calf, there was the mother had a breech birth. Well, it wasn't quite breech, but she had the calf. The calf was healthy, but her womb had passed out, and so they had stitched her up and it wasn't holding. So they called me and said, and Mr. Thorpe, when animals are like this, I typically call and sell it to somebody, or somebody will buy it. And I said, somebody will buy animals like that, isn't that? Yes, I said people buy it all the time. So I was in Mandeville and I drove down to the farm because they said they had somebody else willing to buy it. So I called another person and said, what would this animal be sold for? And he gave me an idea. So we agreed at a certain price and said, all right, since he's in that condition, I said, sell it to this, or she's in that, sell it to the gentleman. When I went there, because they didn't know I was close by, so I drove down from Mandeville to the location and I showed up on the farm. The guy's there getting ready to handle the animals. So I showed up. So I met him and I said, all right. So he had X amount of money. When I went there now, the caretaker is telling me, instead of the $90,000 that they're selling the big old animal for, which I thought could have been helped, him now saying is $50,000 the guy come with. And I said, that's not what we're told. I said, before you pull that stunt on me, make him stay right there, so, and put her under, because that's being dishonest. We made an agreement. You say that's what the guy is going to come pay. Now you're telling me it's literally half of what he agreed to pay. So eventually the gentleman who came to buy it said, well, he's here already and yeah, I'm paid for the thing. The guy even counted money and counted it over, gave me 10,000 extra. Alright? Mistake. When I checked it, I found the extra 10,000. I called him and gave it to him and he was like, he didn't know. I said, no, I'm not here to cheat you. I wouldn't cheat you. We agreed our price, and that's why I was so adamant about. Well, I drove all the way here to handle the matter. We agreed, and then you come and this guy is saying it's half. I said, no, that's not how I do business. You said X, you gave me X. It was too much. I gave you back your 10,000. So they loaded this animal onto the truck, and I see them lingering, and I'm like, why are you lingering? Oh, the guy went, now, what about the scraps? So I said, scraps. So I looked at the other gentleman that I had asked to meet me there, and scraps, what are you talking about, scraps? So normally when this happened to the cows, him sell it to the guy and give the calf as scraps. So you see, the lady have this farm running. When her animals got hurt, but she don't know how the animal is hurt or hurt. Him can only say that. When him sell it to somebody else, underprice it because I'm getting a piece of the action. Underprice is in turn around and give the person, the woman, calf. So I said, listen, we look like no idiot here. I said, you buy a cow. That's what you pay for. You want the calf, we pay, you're going to pay for the calf too. So I'm deciding I'm going to pay for it. This caretaker now start giving me all kind of excuse. Oh, blah, blah. I said, listen, we're going to go buy a nipple, a baby. What you call it? You know, them nursing bottle thing that's used with baby. And we're going to buy milk and put it in there because I see my father raise cow, and that's what I'm doing. So going back now, the guy left, calf is there. I went and bought the stuff to feed the animal. When I bought it and came back, him have. So I said, you have that, and so you've been doing this, and then you're going to tell me about give away the calf for scraps. And on top of that, him say what him normally do is take the calf, and I hope you understand what's going on. He would take the calf and find a cow that just had a birth and put the two calves together and make the mother rub milk on the calf and make the mother accept the other calf, and so the one cow would feed the two calves. So that's what I'm saying do, you know. But here he was telling me before that him normally give away the calf. So how many of the calf he was already stealing? So every time there's and he used to call us and say, oh, this cow dead, that cow dead. I'm like, why so many cows are dying? I said, at one point I get to him, I said, if any more cows die, there's going to be some serious issue. So this guy was making the cows die. Then he would take the calf. We or this lady would not know because she gave me authorization to help her manage the farm or see the cows whenever I'm here. We would know what was going on. We'd just hear so the mother died, the calf died along, and he burned it, and we don't hear. So how many calves and so he was stealing? About 6 months after, I went back and I saw this massive calf. Not the scraps I went go give away. Turned into a nice bull cow. Bullkin they call him. So that was a calf now that was out of the pen that I saw. And him said the calf disgusting and him have to move it or sell it or something. So I said, don't sell it. Because I took a special interest in the calf, and I said, no, we're going to make him grow and stuff. So when we went to sell the calf, the bulls that were available for sale the next day, he was like, I see a truck pull up with a calf in there. All I'm saying is a lady calf. No, there was a cow on the place, and I said, what is cow doing here? Tie up over there. It's this lady, she carried the cow for get service. I saw he's servicing people cow now. So what if anything happened to this cow? What if the bull jump him and broke the back? Who responsible? So the guy have the farm, the service other people's animals, get paid. So I said, no, don't take anybody's stuff on the farm. And beyond that, so we went down the next day to sell. Fortunately, the lady was there with me that day. And when the animals were transported over, stick a pin. When we went to the main herd now and checked, I see a calf in the main herd look pretty exactly like the calf outside. So I said, but no, because I started to call it calf scrap no. So it's not, scrap get back into the pen. He said, no, scraps that him just see him have this one have a tag. So the next day we went to sell the cows or the calves. Guess what showed up? Him say him sell scraps to a lady. So when scrap was being weighed, the lady said, the owner said, but that's not scrap because scraps never have no tag. Him say, yeah, scraps had tag a we mistaken. So two of us already know the day before. Identify the calf outside and see the other calf in the pen will look exactly. And him tell me say it's a different calf. So I took that calf that looked like scraps, sell it to the woman, come and wait, and in front of us, in the face of us, the man had thief the animal. And the lady was getting ready to go scream, and I said, I told her, listen, we know, we heard, we saw, just stay calm, because you live abroad, I live abroad, and if anything happens, we have to make arrangements to replace him. So let's just bite the bullet this time and make it slide as if we're idiot. So no, up to now we not identify or find the other calf, him just disappear. That said, went to check off the cows, and this man started to act up. So I saw another calf there the last time I was there to check off the cows, another bull. And when we checked out, I said, man, that bull is so pretty. I hope we can keep that one. When we went there now with this incident and this whole judge thing and the judge, I saw when we're checking off, I saw the bull that I saw. I said, man, that bull is really pretty. And with I said it to the other guy, The guy now said, he bought this. And all the tagging him here, I bought this calf, this bull from somebody, because I was telling him to stop using the bulls on the place, because when the lady took over the place, he claimed 19 cows or calves were his. I have no evidence in buying it. So I said to him, you know what, try to remove the calves, the 19 cows where you say I have, because there might be issues down the road and I don't want to have any headache with anything. Plus you don't have any bulls on your thing. I can move two of the bulls off the main herd to his herd. So I said, put back the bulls over there and down. So I never have any bulls. So I claim now, after I kept insisting, say you need to reduce your herd, because when I went back now, when he took over he had 19. When I checked off, after him didn't want to check off, him have 41 bulls. 41 cows. And him not have no bull, him not buy no cow. So when him getting the other 20 odd from. So at that point I told him, listen, you need to reduce your herd, because I'm telling us the lady have to reduce her herd because grass short. I said, no, you can't tell the lady to reduce her herd. You need to remove your animals, reduce the herd, and not bring on no more animals. So anyway, when we went and checked off the animals now, here comes the bull, and I said, this bull is even prettier than before. Him said, I know, for the lady bull, me buy that bull. So I said, you buy the bull? You have a receipt for it? And not the lady tag in the ear? No, for the lady tag. Him buy the bull from somebody else. And so I said, who you buy it from? And he give a name. Now the name he gave was a young guy who has a meat thing going, young, ambitious guy working. And him brought him to the lady to buy animals. And he now said to that guy buy from that guy. I said, but that guy just buy animals, raise them and sell him back. Him sell you back a bull. So I say, you have a receipt? He say, you have a receipt. So when he started to act up, I asked the cops to, just deal with this, because I want to find out what's going on with this bull cow that him saying bought. So I said, we need to go find this guy. Him say, I have the receipt, remember, in the house. So I said, go for the receipt. Him have to go call the guy for the receipt. But I said, you just say you bought, you have the receipt. The copy is there now, I say, you have the receipt. How now you have to call this guy? Him pick up the phone and him call the guy. So and so, I said, Mr. Nelson, me gonna need a receipt for that thing, man, get from you, And of course you're here, we're not hearing on the thing. So me say, you should put that on speakerphone, him now want to put you on speaker. I say, I need a receipt for that thing there, And the guy was speaking so loud, say, you mean because of the trouble are going down there and stuff? Kind of trouble, because now I may find out all of this. The cop is there. You think the cop would have said, no, let me go check this thing out, because I had already filed a thing at the police station that we're missing 28 heads of cattle, and the lady there, a sergeant something another, say, oh, you know, we don't think we can get back the ones that are missing. But I said we need to investigate who sell them, because it must be somebody on the farm that sell them, because he never report them missing. And the last audit we did, 28 of them missing now. And plus we had some bulls to be sold, but because of COVID, they couldn't be sold. And they're not there, we don't see them. And here's a witness to say they were there, because this is the guy that came and checked them off before. So the cops are there now, and this guy is telling me about, you know, forget the receipt from the guy and blah blah blah. So I spoke to the guy on the phone and I said, oh, so when can we get the receipt? Well, Kojo, that's the guy, I have to come for the receipt. So I said to the officer, you need to check this thing out. So the day was ended now, because we did the check. The day that was, I remember he had threatened me now, you know. So because I was threatened, I hired 2 armed security persons to come to the farm with me. So they were there to witness everything. We went over to a far place where I'm claiming have his cattle. When we went over there, we saw our cattle, or I said our because I'm helping with the cattle. Over there with tags, and I told them to take pictures. Took pictures. So we left the day, and I arranged with the cops to come back the next day to do the branding, because a whole bunch of cars were there that weren't branded. And we said we can't leave the island without dealing with that, because that's how you lose animals. So I arranged to come back the next day, and when we came back the next day, he locked us off the place. So I called the officer and I said, we've been locked off the property and he won't let us off. So anyway, got on to the precinct, file a report. The officer ain't coming with us. Went up there with him, with the security. The officer went over with another officer into the yard, down to the house. I went round there, and apparently he wasn't at the house. He was someplace over some other place. Saw the cops walking across the field. About a half an hour or later, I saw the cops coming back toward them with a whole bunch of people with 2 big old bags of stuff. They went to the house. I couldn't see them. The security guard came and said, shouldn't you be over there? I said, well, let me find out what's going on. Eventually they called me down there. I went down there, see 2 big old bags of ganja. The long and short of it is, the story and the cops' attitude changed instantaneously. Now I was the villain. I was the villain. I was the one causing problems, and I shouldn't be on the property. The cop loaded up the 2 big old bags. I'm not talking about a small bag. 2 industrial bags of ganja. Put it in his vehicle, and that was it. From then, I was being threatened. I went and I chained up some gates to the outer pastures. So let me at least chain it up so they can move cattle through there while all of this mess is going on. The cops came back when this guy started threatening me, a bunch of cops, and one of them that took the ganja. And I explained to him and just putting to the cops said, I may cause a problem, and them can't guarantee any safety for me, and they would tell me not to come back down there. So I've been barred from looking about animals. I have a power of attorney to deal with for this lady. She's in the US, stressed her hell out, and she doesn't know what's happening to her animals or farm. She have land down there, and a judge just randomly give the woman animal to an attorney and to a crooked thief of a woman that don't have no claim in the woman's stuff, and they're probably selling, not probably, they're selling off the woman. Why would they try to get the animals in the front? Not sell it so they have liquidity. That is what's going on, and that's what Jamaica is filled up. And I keep saying, if all of this is happening to somebody who knows the law, understand human rights, understand say this is fraud, and the police and attorneys and the judges not supposed to do this, what they're doing to people who don't know, what they're doing to the bunch of Jamaicans. And now you should understand why so many Jamaicans take things in them hand. They go settle business themselves because of this kind of activity. And I'll always say the nefarious activity and corruption and fraud is generating kind of levels of crime that's in Jamaica. People take revenge and retaliate for stuff like this. That lady is in the US now, stressed the hell out because of a judge that's irresponsible, that's crooked, dishonest. I said to the lady, here the people them didn't fulfill the rules of the court or the law and serve, so she don't have any jurisdiction to give any order. She give an order for limit me from dealing with the lady's animals, for allowing these people to take the woman's animals, and God knows what they're doing with it. People, that's why I said I don't know if I have a bullseye on my back. Maybe she did that to the lady because she knows I'm fighting them and I'm very vocal with what I'm doing. I don't play around. I went into court and one of the judges that came on the first matter and tried to get them to give them, and I told the judge they didn't serve the people and therefore they don't have any. And she was like, why don't I just accept it or tell them to? I said, no, the rules of the court and the law say they must serve the people. There's a reason you have rules. And she was going to try to intimidate. I said, you're not going to come here and bully me, you know. I said, the rules are there for a purpose. The law is there for a purpose. They're supposed to serve the people legally and they haven't done it. And you're not going to bully me by telling me about tell a lady if you accept, and because I don't, I say I'm not going to do that. They must follow the rules. You have attitude. Because she came at me in a certain way and I told her, no, not me. You're not going to bully me. Because you're a judge, you're not going to come and bully me. So that's when she gave them orders now, so them have to serve according to the rules of the court. And now they went and they did it again illegally and come back before Justice Mason, the same irresponsible woman who did the stuff to me under the Capital One matter. And in that matter she said, oh, she never see anything filed on me. And I said to her, when she did that, then I said, how could you say that? I filed X on it and here it is. I flashed it on the screen and show, just like how I showed you the document. She said she didn't see anything. And instead of saying, well, if she didn't see anything, then hold our decision and go find what file in the court and then look at it, she give them the order nonetheless. Alright? Then she goes said to me, she not giving me leave to appeal. You see the deal. And that's why I said that kind of rule is illegal. Because when you have a judge like that, that's corrupt and dirty and irresponsible, dishonest, then they use those kind of things to further victimize people. So I filed it in the appeals court. When I went to the appeals court, a judge is there telling me oh, the lady, I can sit there with the lady, but she has to show up in court. I can't represent her. And of course the rule, there are no rules that say that, because I've already represented people in the appeals court. So my thing now is, and I should have sent it off already, is to draft a letter to the Chief Justice over the appeals court and say, further, the Constitution is clear. The Constitution says a person that files anything in the court has the right to file the court and select anybody or any person she wants to be, or they want to be their legal representative. And if the Constitution said that, the Constitution also say nobody or no rules or law outside the Constitution can supersede what the Constitution say. So I will write that over to them and say, the lady is not confident with the attorneys out there and she wants me to represent her. And I've been in the court already. I represent other people in the court. So how is this judge going to tell me no? So the lady, and so they put off the lady's matter instead of hearing it and throwing out the injunction and throwing these people off the property and put them in jail where they belong. She tell me, oh, she going wait until the lady gets an attorney and then they will reset the matter. So I'm going to deal with it. I told her I'll get an attorney anyway, because I'll go with the attorney and do the talking anyway. Because you can't trust them. And it's been months now and they haven't set it. So you see the same thing. Judges supporting these nonsense and you're taking people's property for granted. Now the judge was probably being careful. I don't know if she's mistaken. I don't know if she had some US experience, because in the US, and one person can't represent another person. In Jamaica, the Constitution is different. You can represent somebody as long as they want you to represent it. You don't have to have a law degree. It says you can select your legal representative. And rightly so. What they're doing in the US, we're telling people they have to get an attorney, is only setting up the people and for defeat when the attorney going down and screw up, or the fact that they want people to make money for attorneys, because that the judges and them come up with all these rules to keep their economy sustained. So they're only looking for make money for themselves, so they come up with that rule. Fortunately, and that's why I said in a previous video, let's stop talking about changing the Jamaica constitution. We have an excellent constitution that give Jamaicans the right to protect themselves regardless. And what they want to do now is go change the constitution and probably infuse all of this foreign thing in there that now take away Jamaicans' rights again from them, property and everything else. So let's stop this nonsense. All them politicians who up there talk about change constitution, tell them to go sit down somewhere and do them jobs. They're there to represent people and work for the country's growth and the economy and make people's life better, instead of going all this academic work, all this paperwork, changing constitution. There's no need to change no constitution. Do your work, do your job. Up there waste of time and collect taxpayers' money, and then you have judges up there who are helping attorneys to steal people's money. So this woman go get a crooked attorney who went up, and this is a major law firm again now, you know. So you see, a little one attorney out there now going to do it because he know he's going to get caught, he's going to get slapped down. But this big law firm who knows these judges and work their way through the system, because I shut them down twice about the jurisdiction and said no, they can't do anything with this. And in fact, the matters are in the probate court, and they're moving, they filed to remove the matter from the probate court. Why? This is about somebody's estate. Why would a judge want to move somebody's estate out of the probate court? Because they plan to rob the people of them property. And they plan to drag it out, because in the probate court they have a certain time to make things happen and conclude it. I remember I told you the attorney for the lady, the executor for the deceased gentleman, had already submitted the matter. They were waiting on a grant of probate, and when they went and removed the executors that the man want on him estate, and then move it out of the probate court, why do you think they're moving it out there for? Why would an attorney want to move it out? And you want to tell me, say a judge they must know, say a thief, they want to thief people stuff and defraud people, and that is what's going on in Jamaica. I am extremely upset over this, because again, in your face, them think because you try to work civilly with them, you can't take action. But you're going in somebody's face and a thief from them and just turn around and think they must accept it. It is unacceptable, and the government and the police need to act before people start coming down there and taking matters in their own hands. Because you're not going to rob people indefinitely. Arbitrarily just take people's property and do it, want to do it, and think it's okay and they must accept it because we hire you as a judge and put you in a black robe and you sit down on one desk and think you're going to thief people's stuff. This poor lady is having a breakdown because I don't know, I'm going to pull off of this. Thanks for taking the time, because I'm so damn upset. And I think when grown men cry because they're afraid, there's no fear here. I see the poor lady sit down there. Her mother worked the hell off to build her farm. And this Judge Mason, this friggin' bitch, sit down there and in the face of the persons just to rob the people. Go tell me, say, I didn't file anything. In my face, go tell me that lie. Now, what do you expect people to do? Them don't know how close they are to have people take care of things on their own. Because if you can't get justice in the court and the police won't do their jobs, because I filed a report with the police about the robbery and all that's going on. And then the police go come up there and collect 2 big bags of ganja. And I reported it, because I went down when the police took the ganja, I said to him when he come back up there the next day, I said, I thought you were coming in your official capacity, because I don't want you coming. I said, furthermore, what went on yesterday, I would advise you to fix your business, because this matter is going to end up in court. Him say everything alright, he's in his official capacity. I said, oh, you in your official capacity and you drive your own car. Not knowing, sir, because in control the money or the ganja from this guy now. Him come there personally for direct traffic and limit my access to the woman's animals. So when I went and they threatened me, because when this cop is up in my face telling me, and he was up in my face, telling me I am the one down there giving trouble. I am not supposed to be on property or belong to the woman, that I have authorization to be on, not only from the woman but from the deceased, and this is deceased mother, and have been on there for more than, anyway. I went down and I spoke to the DSP and I said, what's going on? I need this. I file a complaint. The sergeant I filed it was Hendricks, one woman sergeant named Hendricks. Them get threat from an attorney, but then go sue attorney general. So because of that now, them were afraid. Do your job, you're a cop. Go and lock up the woman for even threatening you. That's blackmail. That's intimidation. When they wrote you a letter, say, then if stop me from going on property that I'm authorized to be on. That's blackmail and intimidation. Go lock her up. And then I said to the DSP, I won't call his name now, but him know himself. The DSP, I said, am I going through this because the day before your people went up there and pick up ganja from this guy, and this guy go ganja on the people in place, which I told him to take off, 2 years in a row I told him take it off of the place. And I have drone footage of the ganja and him down there, pick ganja and all of that on the place. And I said, we don't want to have any issues with the cops. When they pass the law, so they're giving them the opportunity to go. I said, why don't you go and register and make it legit? Go there with an appraiser to look at the property. The appraiser is flying a drone. Pick up about 15-20 people the man have down there pick ganja on the people in place. And I said, listen, you need to stop this. You can't be on the people in place, because when cops come and raid it, and cops must know you do this over here because this is a small community. When they come for raid it and you run at the people who own the property, going to end up in trouble. So don't bring it over here. Now the cop come down and take 2 big guns. I'm saying it's not 2 ladder bag. I talk about 2 big industrial bag of ganja. And then because of that, now him not doing job, then go intimidate and threaten me, say them can't guarantee my freedom. And they're saying that in front of the scumbag, the scumbag will thief the woman cattle. That I busted a thief the cattle. And all I wanted to do was record the animals so there would be a catalog of it. Then tell me I can't do it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'm getting upset. I've been upset. I hear this song this morning, Marvin Gaye. What's going on? What's going on in Jamaica? What's going on? How much can people take? And I keep saying, if they're doing it to me, who have a knowledge of what's the law, what is the Constitution, I have some resources to deal with it. If they're doing it to me, what are they doing to the ordinary people? What are they doing to all them Jamaicans who have farms living abroad and have farms down there? That's why when they send money for build houses and they rob them up and the house not build, nothing comes of it. Except when they come down, they end up being missing or taken out. Because these cops won't do their job. And this DSP should have stepped up. Because I said, I held off because I went and filed stuff in the court. But the court is now playing around with this woman's business. And I feel I have an obligation to take care of it. Because I said her mother was one of my primary investor partners. And I'm not going to make nobody rob them either. Thank you. Have a great day. As I say, I'm by the water, so I'm going to just go walk, get some of the breeze, because I'm not in the best state of mind right now. Thank you. Please subscribe. Please like the video and send it to people, because the information is critical to this country, Jamaica's survival, and to Jamaicans. Because if we allow this country to fall into anarchy, we can't stay on the island. It's as simple as that. They have more weapons of war down there than they probably have in some war zone in Africa. Take care. Have a great day now. Bye.